It was a very different experience for me from last year, because I think last year, before the match, I was really emotional.
She didn't just play Wimbledon this year, she rewrote what it means to represent a country on center court. Alex Eala's 2026 fortnight will be remembered as one of the most remarkable underdog stories the tournament has seen in years. And even though her run ended in the fourth round, nobody walked away from it feeling like it was anything less than a triumph. Because here's the thing, Eala didn't sneak into the second week. She fought her way there, toppling a defending champion along the way and doing it with a smile that made the whole thing look like joy instead of pressure. That's rare. Most players who reach this level start to carry the weight of expectation on their shoulders. Eala seemed to carry it like fuel instead. Let's talk about that third round match, because it deserves to be remembered on its own. Eala, seeded 29th, walked onto center court against world number 3 and defending champion Iga Swiatek, one of the most feared competitors in the sport. And she walked off having saved 2 set points in an 84-minute opening set before closing it out 7-6, 6-2. The numbers alone tell you how dominant it was. Eala won 71 break points to Swiatek's 27 and committed only 21 unforced errors compared to Swiatek's 44. That's not luck. That's not a lucky day where everything bounced her way. That's a player who showed up completely locked in on the biggest stage of her life against one of the best players on the planet and simply outplayed her from the first point to the last. What made it even more special was how she played it. She stood inside the baseline, took the return early, and refused to give Swiatek any rhythm at all. Analysts pointed out afterward that Eala dominated nearly every short rally in the match, the kind of exchanges that are supposed to favor the more experienced, more decorated player. Instead, it was the 21-year-old from Quezon City calling the shots. That win made her the first Filipino woman to reach the third round of a Grand Slam, and then, almost immediately, the first from the Philippines to advance to the second week of a major in the Open era. 2 records, broken in a single afternoon on the sport's most famous court. That fourth round appearance did more than just extend her run. It erased decades of Philippine tennis history and replaced it with her name. Eala surpassed the third round finishes of Philippine tennis legends from the amateur era, records that had stood since the 1950s, and set an entirely new benchmark for the sport in her home country. Think about that for a second. Records that had stood since before her parents were even born, gone in a single tournament. And she did it at 21 years old, playing with the kind of composure that veterans spend an entire career trying to find and often never do. Her run finally came to a close against 13th seed Jasmine Paolini, a former Wimbledon finalist, in a match that swung back and forth for 3 tight sets before ending in Paolini's favor. But calling it a loss almost undersells what actually happened on that court. Eala pushed a 2-time Grand Slam finalist to the brink, forced a decider, and left absolutely everything she had out there. She came back from a break down in the second set, saved break points with fearless serving under enormous pressure, and made Paolini work for every single game. Even Paolini couldn't help but acknowledge the occasion afterward, praising just how electric center court had become because of the crowd Eala brought with her. When a former finalist admits that the atmosphere around your match felt like something special, that tells you everything about the scale of what Eala built in just 2 weeks. What made this run different from so many great tennis stories wasn't just the tennis itself. It was the sense that an entire country was living it in real time, together. From Manila to London, Filipino fans turned every Eala match into an event, packing viewing parties in the middle of the night, filling social media with flags and messages of support, and treating each win like a national holiday. And none of it was manufactured or organized by any marketing campaign. It happened because people recognized almost instantly that they were watching something historic unfold. That kind of organic, borderless support is rare in sports. It's the kind of thing that turns a talented athlete into a symbol, someone whose success feels shared rather than solitary. Every point she won on center court felt like it belonged to millions of people watching thousands of miles away, and that connection is something that no amount of ranking points can capture. None of this arrived out of nowhere, either. Eala came into Wimbledon fresh off a genuine breakout season, including a title on grass earlier in the summer, and a strong semi-final run where she beat several accomplished opponents in the build-up to the tournament. Her win over Swiatek pushed her career record against top 10 players to a genuinely elite mark, proof that her big results were not isolated flashes, but part of a consistent upward trend. And her game deserves just as much credit as her results. Built on movement, anticipation, and a refusal to give up on points that look completely lost, her style has become one of the most compelling on tour, precisely because it isn't built on overwhelming power. It's built on relentlessness, on making opponents hit one more shot than they want to, on wearing teams down point by point rather than overwhelming them with pace. That's a harder, more demanding way to win matches, and it makes her victories feel earned in a way that raw power alone never quite does. Perhaps the most striking part of the whole run was how grounded Eala stayed through it. After the Swiatek win, she reflected on the moment with total humility, describing how much the achievement meant to her while still praising her opponent generously and thanking the crowd for the atmosphere they created. And after the tournament ended, she pointed to the mental growth as the real takeaway. Not the ranking points, not the prize money, but the ability to stay composed when everything is on the line, to trust her preparation under pressure, and to enjoy the process instead of fearing it. That mindset, more than any single match, is exactly why so many people believe this is just the beginning for her, not the peak. Players who can separate their identity from the scoreboard tend to have long, sustainable careers, and Eala has shown that skill again and again on tennis's biggest stages. The result of all this is a new career high ranking, a wave of new fans discovering the sport because of her, and a hard court swing already on the horizon as she looks to build on this momentum. If Wimbledon proved anything, it's that she is no longer a surprise name buried in the draw sheet. She is a legitimate contender every single time she steps on court, someone opponents now have to prepare for specifically, rather than an unknown quantity they can overlook. It's also worth remembering just how young she still is. 21 years old, with a game that is still evolving, a competitive fire that keeps growing, and a country full of people who now believe, perhaps for the first time, that a Grand Slam title from the Philippines is not just a dream, but a realistic possibility. Alexandra Eala came to London as a rising talent from a country without a deep Grand Slam tradition. She left as proof that the next great tennis story can come from absolutely anywhere, that history doesn't require a famous academy pedigree or a country with decades of past champions to draw inspiration from. Sometimes it just requires one player brave enough to believe she belongs and talented enough to prove it on the biggest stage in the sport. And sometimes the most unforgettable runs are the ones that end in the fourth round, not the final. Because what Eala built at this Wimbledon wasn't just a result. It was a movement, a moment, and a message to every young player watching back home that the distance between a local court and center court is shorter than anyone ever imagined. There's also something worth saying about the way she's handled the attention that comes with all of this. Fame arrived quickly and loudly, and it would have been easy for a 21-year-old to change under that kind of spotlight. Instead, she has stayed remarkably consistent in interviews, remarkably warm with fans, and remarkably unbothered by the noise growing louder around her with every win. That steadiness matters just as much as her forehand or her footwork, because careers at the top level are long, and the players who last are usually the ones who never let the outside world dictate how they feel about themselves. Coaches and commentators who have watched her closely all season keep coming back to the same point. She competes like someone who has nothing to lose and everything to enjoy, which is an unusual combination in a sport that can wear players down mentally long before it wears them down physically. That freedom in how she plays, paired with the discipline in how she prepares, is exactly the formula that turns promising careers into historic ones. So while the trophy went to someone else this time, it would be a mistake to measure this Wimbledon by that outcome alone. Measure it instead by the record books that were rewritten, the crowds that packed practice courts just to watch her hit forehands, and the millions of people who found a new reason to fall in love with tennis because of one player from Quezon City who refused to be intimidated by the occasion. That's the kind of legacy that outlasts any single scoreline, and it's exactly why this Wimbledon will be remembered as the moment the whole tennis world truly discovered Alexandra Eala.